I'll discuss the topic sampling, meaning, types, and sampling error. First, I'll discuss or I'll try to explain what is sampling. What is the meaning of sampling? Sampling is a term used in statistics. It is the process of choosing a representative sample from a target population and collecting data from that sample in order to understand something about the population as a whole. So here, this is the meaning of sampling. Sampling is the term used in statistics. It is the process of choosing a representative. I'll just give example. Now, I want to do research on the topic that whether GC college is good college. Whether GC college is good college or not. So, I have to do sampling. That means I have to take the sample of the students. Then I am talking about here sample. I'll define what is sample. Sample is a small part of something intended is representative of the whole. So here, let's say, here in this college, we have 3,000 students, and we have 3 streams: science, arts, and commerce. Then here, that means to take sample, it may be difficult for me to collect each and every name of 3,000 students. So here I have to take sample. I have to do sampling. That means from science I have to select randomly 100 students. Then from arts, again I have to select randomly 100 students. Again, from commerce, I have to select randomly 100 students. So this, now 300 students. So these 300 students will represent the population of GC college. This is the meaning of sampling. Then here, how I will select it, okay? Again, I'll just give an example. So here, I have to write each and every student's name here, one by one. For example, Mr. Ram, Mr. Raju, Miss Nikki, and so on. And so and so. Then all these 3,000 students' names I have to keep here in a box. Three thousand students. Then here, randomly first from science, I have to pick it up 100 students from science. Maybe science students 1,000. Out of 1,000, I have to pick it up only 100 students randomly. Then here, it's just manner here, arts and commerce. This is what we call random sampling. As I have said, here Sampling is a term used in statistics. It is the process of choosing a representative sample from a target population and collecting data from the sample in order to understand something about the population as a whole. So these 300 students, these 300 students will represent 3,000 students of GC college as a whole. Then, as I have already said, population. That is here I mentioned about population. Population means a small part, something intended as representative of the whole. So this is sample. 300 students is the sample, and these 300 students represent 3,000 students. This is what we call sample. Now I'll discuss again types of samples. Types of sample. There are 5 types of sample. First, random sampling. Just now I have already explained random sampling. That means randomly I have select 300 students. One band is from each stream, that is science, commerce, and arts. So this random sampling is analogous, means similar in some way that you can compare. I can compare here commerce, arts, and science. So here, to putting everyone's name into it, as I have said, everyone's names I have put here in the box. Everyone's names I have already put in a box, and randomly when I pick up one, that is from this 3,000. So here, each element in the population has an equal chance of occurring. So here, when I pick it up, maybe Raju, maybe Ram, maybe Rahul, maybe Pinky, like this. This is what we call random sampling. Then second one is systematic sampling. So this systematic sampling is a bit easier to do than random sampling. In systematic sampling, the list of elements is count off. I'll just use again blackboard. What is systematic sampling? By use of blackboard, I understand. Systematic sampling. See here, I'll select 30 students. 30 people. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. So I will apply here systematic sampling. Now I will start from the second number of students. Then I'll just take it every third, first, second, third, every third number of students I'll take it. First, second, third, first, second, third, like that. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Then how many number I have? Now I'll count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I have 10 students. This is a systematic sampling. Systematically, I select the sample. Then the third number is the third types of sampling is convenience sampling. What is convenience sampling? In convenience sampling, readily available data is used. So as the name is also convenience sampling. So when I am about to conduct research or I am about to do research, so I have to use or I have to collect a sample which is ready or which is available data, which is ready to use data. So in this convenience sampling, readily available data is used. So I have to use the data which is available for me. This is what we call convenience sampling. It is not difficult. Then the fourth point is cluster sampling. Cluster sampling is done by dividing the population into groups, usually geographically. These groups are called cluster or blocks. So the clusters are randomly selected. That means randomly. That means I have to select the cluster randomly. For example, in Qatar, we have 15 blocks. Lakipur block, Binakandi block, Raza Bazar block, like this, okay, Sonai block. So this Qatar is divided into 15 blocks. So in this cluster sampling, I have to select blocks randomly. Out of these 15 blocks, I have to select randomly, like picking, as I have already given example, like picking up the name of the students of this college. So here I have to select it. Yes, it is done by dividing the populations into groups, usually geographically. See here, geographically, Lakipur block is separated here. Again, Binagandi block is also geographically. We have to classify them. Katigara block, Sonai block also. In this way, this is what we call cluster sampling. Yes, I want to do research like difference in PM Kisan, old age pension, Indira was like now PMAY in this Qatar. But for me, it may be difficult to go here and there. It may be difficult to go to each and every block. That means 15 blocks. So I have to select some blocks out of these 15. This is what we call cluster sampling. The last one is stratified sampling. This stratified sampling divides the population into group called strata. It is by some characteristic, not geographically, but maybe physically. So here example is population may be separated into males and female. This is what we call stratified sampling. So in this stratified sampling, population may not divided geographically, but it may be divided or it may be separated into like sex, males and females. This is what we call stratified sampling. Then the last one is sampling error. I'll discuss what is sampling error. Sampling error is a statistical error that could occur when an analyzer does not select a sample that represents the entire populations of data, and the result found in the sample do not represent the result that would be obtained from the entire populations. See here, sampling error, it occurs generally as a result of using a sample from a population rather than conducting a census of the populations. That means using sample, that means as I already explained what is sample. How to take sample I have already explained. So here this sample from, that means it occurs generally as a result of using a sample from a population rather than conducting a census of the populations. Suppose sampling error may not occur if we conduct a census of the population properly. Then in the second, it refers to the difference between a sample statistic used to estimate a population's parameter and the actual but unknown value of parameter. Then the third one is sampling error are inherent and unavoidable. Now I'll discuss how sampling error occurs, how it occurs, sampling error. The proportions of different characteristics within the sample are not similar. Suppose over here the proportions of different characteristics. There are different characteristics in our research, in our populations. So these characteristics within the sample are not similar to the proportions of the characteristics of the whole populations. So there are different characteristics. As I have already given example like GC. In GC also we have commerce, science, commerce stream, science and arts. So here the characteristic of the students of commerce, science and arts may not be similar. It may be different. So for these very reasons, the sample are not similar to the proportions of the characteristic of whole population. So for these very reasons, there may be sampling error. Then the sample is too small to accurately represent the populations. Suppose again I will take example our college. As I have said, for in GC college there are 3,000 students. So this in order to represent these 3,000 students, if I select only like 20 students or 30 students, so this sample, the sample will be too small to accurately represent the population of GC college. Then another point is sampling method is not random. Sometimes sampling error occurs because the method which we apply is not random. Sometimes this research may be biased. So for these reasons, sampling error occurs. And sampling error are absent in a complete enumeration survey. For example, we have 3,000 students. So these 3,000 students, yes, we are going to do research. Enumerations, if I just ask them questions one by one, if I just conduct interview one by one, then sampling error may occur. Some sampling error may absent. I may be able to avoid, we may be able to avoid sampling error. If there is complete enumerations, not selecting only 300 students, but enumeration means counting or like interviewing, interacting with the students, each and every students of 3,000 students. Now I'll discuss how sampling error can be reduced. Sampling error can be reduced when there is unbiased sampling. Unbiased sampling error can be measured and controlled in random samples where each unit has a chance of selections. That chance can be calculated. Whether that means the sampling is unbiased, then sampling error can be reduced. Another point is increase the sample size. Yes, I have said I have selected 300 students in order to know the performance of the student of GC college, that means 3,000 students. So here I have to increase. When there is sampling error, then I have to increase the sample size. Then I have to increase from 300 to maybe 300, means 100 students per stream. That means I have to increase to 900. That means 300 from science, arts, 300 from commerce, 300. That means 900. Increase the sample size. Increasing the sample size will reduce the sample error. And then there another point is cross check. I have to cross check. Biased responses should be avoided. Then the last point is appropriate sampling designs. I have to design properly my sampling designs. Specific sampling plans should be formulated. Specific. There must be specific plans. Then we have to formulate, and suitable sampling procedure should be adopted. We have to adopt procedure. That means suitable sampling procedure should be adopted. We have to adopt it. Now, in the last part, I'll just summarize what I have discussed. First, I'll just define what is sampling. Sampling is the process of selecting a part of populations. This is what we call sampling. Then, part of populations. Then what is population? Populations means the entire group of people from whom the researcher need to obtain informations. This is the populations. As I have said, all the students of GC college are populations in the research. Then sample. What is sample? A selected part of the populations is called sample. A selected part of the populations. A selected part of the students are called sample. Then sample size. Sample size. The number of people in the selected sample is known as sample size. The number of people in the selected sample is known as sample size. Then another point, statistic. Statistic means any value calculated from sample is called statistic. Any value calculated from sample is called statistic. Then parameter. What is parameter? Any value calculated from population, any value calculated from population is called parameter. Then sample frame. What is sample frame? Sample frame, it means the list of individuals. The list of individuals or people include in the sample the list of the students which I have included in my research. This is what we call sampling frame. Then This reflects who will be included in the sample. Then the last point is sampling technique. It refers to technique or procedure used to select the member of the sample. This is the technique. Just now I have discussed the meaning of sampling. What is the meaning of sampling? Then what different types of sampling, and how this sampling error occurs and how to reduce, as I have already explained. So this sampling is generally used in research. When you do your research, when you do your PhD, or when you do your research, then this will help you, I hope. Thank you.